Welcome to the solution video for the console to-do list challenge. Let's jump right into our source code and create a new project. And we'll choose a console app and a .NET Core console app. Hit next. Let's call this the console to-do and call this console to-do list challenge. Let's call it console to-do list. There we go. And we hit create, and that'll create our .NET Core console app. The first thing we'll do here is we will remove the console write line and add instead a console read line at the end. So let's talk through the various pieces we need. The first piece we need, we're going to place it outside of static void main, is a private static list of list, which is not in our using statements. So therefore, control dot add using system.collections.generic. So now we have list of string. And we want this to be our to-dos. And we'll set that equal to a new list, so it's already initialized for us. This will store all of our to-dos. We don't need to get real fancy here. We're just going to have a message. It's not going to be multi-part, so there's no need for an object. It's just a string. Now we'll capture the number because list is ordered, and so we can capture the number that it is in order by looking at the index number essentially. So with this, we're going to need a few methods. And one of those methods is going to be to identify which step to take. So we'll leave static void main as is basically the quarterback method, the method that calls every other method. So the first method we're going to create is private static. Let's not return void. Let's actually return an enum. Now, in the bonus challenge, we'll add the reorder, but we're not going to do that yet. I want to kind of simulate how we do it in the primary challenge and then the bonus challenge separately. That way you can see how to modify this and how it's not really that hard to modify and add this extra menu action. So let's first ask the user for what they want to do, and then we'll capture that menu action, which we'll return. And then we'll return it. So console.write and say, what would you like to do? And maybe we should have one more. I think we should. Help. So if you don't know what to do, help will print out to the console. So we're going to have string action equals console.readline. And then we'll have a a switch statement. So let's do a switch, and this is going to be on action.toLower. So that will take whatever string you type in, make sure it's lowercase, and then it will convert this over. So we'll say case is add, and then we set the output, which we haven't set up yet. So menu actions output, and let's set this output to help by default. That way, if for whatever reason we can't get a value for this, maybe they give us a bad value, we'll give them help menu instead. So output equals menu actions dot add, and we'll do this for the other options. So we have print, we have print all, which is print all. We have done. We have exit. And we have help. Now there may be a question here about, do we really need to have this whole switch statement? And the answer is maybe. And the reason why is because we can do something like this where we say enum dot try parse and pass in action and then say output, like so. That would in theory work as well, with one caveat. And that is this is case sensitive, meaning if you type lowercase add, it will not find a value, where this way it will. So there's two ways of going about this. One, you can have the more verbose but at the same time more flexible switch statement, or you can comment that out and instead do this, and then the conversion, if it fails, will not do anything to output, but it will change the output value to the default for this enum. So what I'm going to do is wrap this right here. I'm actually going to cut out this and say if equals false. So it's going to check to see if the try parse is false. And if it is, then say output equals help, just to make sure that help is the one specified. And then either way, we can return output. So that makes our method a little smaller, but does make it a little less flexible. Now I could have solved this a different way and made it still the same flexibility as the switch if I were to come down here and change all of these to lowercase, and then my try parse make sure I do action.toLower. That would have worked, except that it then breaks the convention in C# for how enums should look. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that just to make my code a little cleaner or make my users' lives a little nicer. So instead I'm going to do it this way. They're going to have to make sure they format that correctly. Again, the alternative is to enable this switch instead of this right here, and then I can have the more flexible and yet still be the correct casing on my enum. So all that being said, I now have a get menu actions method. So I'm going to have up here a get menu action that's going a call to it, but I'm going to do it in a do loop. And first I'm going to capture a menu actions current action, and then I have a do while current action is not equal to, not equal to exit. So it's going to keep looping while the current action, which right now needs to have initial value. But while the current action is not equal to exit, keep looping. So when they say exit, it's going to exit out of the application and be done. So the first thing we need to do is we need to ask the user for an action. So we need to say get menu action and set current action equal to that value. And then what we can do is a switch statement. Now I know we're doing a switch statement down here, or could be doing a switch statement down here as well as up here, but this is the quarterback method. This is what's going to tell it what to do based upon that enum. So based upon current action, now watch this, if I hit enter, it just filled in all my different cases because it knows that the enum has these values. Therefore it fills them all in and just doesn't give them any actions to do. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're not going to do anything for exit, it's just going to exit. Help. What do you want to do? Well, I can type help again. And if I type test, it prints out help again because test means I don't know what it is, but since I don't know, the default is print the help list. Because if you type out print to do, it goes, that ain't right. So here's your options. Exit, EXIT with a capital E, and now we've exited the application. And in fact, now we don't need this console read line because the application is completed and it doesn't complete until you hit exit. So exit should then close the application. No need to have an extra console read line. So now we have these two taken care of. Now let's work on the add. So private static void add to do. And this is going to say, let's do our console write line at the beginning and end. And then here say console.write. And for this, I actually want to make a tweak because I actually don't want to do it this way. What I want to have happen, and I specify that's in the directions, I just didn't do it, is I want to be able to say add my new task, and what happens is it goes, okay, you want to add, and what you want to add is my new task. The length is going to be the first space. So that position is full action dot index of, and it's a char, so it's double or single quotes and space, like so. Now this will break in one instance, and that is if you don't have a space in your full action. So what do we do about that? Well, let's do this. Let's declare this up here and say action equals full action, so that by default it's the full action. But if we find a space in it, so let's cut this out and say if full action dot index of that space is greater than or equal to 0, meaning you found a space somewhere. In which case, then what we're going to do is we're going to grab the substring and put that into action, overwriting the full action. If we do not find a space, we don't do anything, therefore action is the full action, which means that full word they gave us. Let's make sure that this index of is the correct one. So what I'm going to do is put a breakpoint right here. I'm going to run this. And I'm going to say add, this is a test. Now, we haven't implemented add yet, but we're going to do that check first. So the action says that the action is now add. So we did do the math correctly on this. It's always a little tricky because I'm saying the index of the space, which gives me that index number. However, this number right here that we're supplying is not an index, it's a count. So we start at an index position and say how many characters do we go. So let's just say that the space is the third character in the list. Well, the index of it is a 0 based. So the first character is I, the second character is T, the third character is space. But we count it as 0 for I, 1 for T, and 2 for space. So we say 2 is the index. But because this is a count, we're saying start at index 0 and go 2 characters. Well, 2 characters is I and T, not IT space. So therefore, this is correct. Sorry, the traffic's a little noisy today. I don't have my window covering in right now. Okay, anyways, so with that, we can stop this. We don't actually have an add action. With that, we can now process these more clearly. However, I don't want to return just menu action because I want to also have what that full action is, or any additional instructions. So let's create this is the parameter let's call it param, equals empty string to start. But param will be filled in here if there is a space in our action. So we're going to say full action, equals full action dot substring. And this one we're going to start at full action dot index of that space character. But we want to do +1. We want to start right after that space, and we don't want to give it an end parameter. What that will do is it will give us everything after that space, but not include the space. Again, let's verify that this is in fact what it gives us. So add hello world. Param is hello world. The action is add. Perfect. Now that we have the param, what we can do is instead of returning menu actions, we actually want to return two values, menu action and a string in a tuple. So let's change output to be, and let's give us a name. So let's give this a action, and this is going to be the param, like so. And now we can say that this is, if we call it action, we have full action and action, but we really need to call this action string, like so, and control dot to rename that. That way we can say that the this we need to wrap this in current action and param. And of course, we haven't created param yet, so we'll escape there. And now we'll say string param equals empty string, like so. Now we've captured both. We can still do these things, but in this case for add, we're going to pass in the to do. And so in here, it gets really simple because we can just add to our to-dos like so. All right, now the other thing we gotta do is let's put a console right line here and one down here. That way we can get rid of those in here. So we've got the, I don't have them here, it's in help. That's where I have them. We can get rid of them there and have them everywhere essentially. That way I don't have to put them in here as well in the add to do. So in add, we have add to do param. And now I can add the to do to the list. That's it. So now let's we'll say less than count. And we'll have our console write line with our $sign for string interpolation. And the first thing we'll do is we'll actually print out that I, and then a colon, and then the to-do itself. So to-dos at position I, and we're done. So now we have our print method. We can say for print, we'll say print 3, because remember print just prints the top 3, and print all, we say print. The last method to do is our So I want to first add hello world. What would you like to do? Let's go with print. And it says index is outside the range. So let's find out why. This makes sense. So I said print the 3 to-dos. However, I only have 1 to-do. So that's another check we need to put in place, is if the count, which currently is 1, is, well, that's I, but it's also the count. If the count is less than 3, then don't use that, or less than the value being passed in, then don't use that value. So if count is 0, or count is greater than to-dos.count. So either way, use that count. Let's try this again. So add hello world, print hello world. Let's add goodbye. Let's add take out trash. Now let's have a print. So we have hello world, goodbye, and take out trash. And let's say done 1, and then print. So we've completed 1, which is goodbye. Now the item in 1's place is take out trash. So we now have our functioning to-do list. And if we type exit, it exits the window. One more thing to add to this list, I'm going to do it right now, is clear. Because it's kind of annoying to have all that space on the screen. So let's do private static void clear, which just does a console.clear. And I think we can remove one of these right lines. I don't know which one. Let's just add that one. And I'm going to add the case for clear, which is clear and break. So now if we run this, we should be able to say add hello world, clear, and then we can do a print all. There's hello world, done with 0. We can do a print, there's nothing to print. We can do a clear, which clears the screen again. We can do an exit, which exits our application. So we are done. Well, at least we're done with the primary challenge. We still have the bonus challenge to tackle, which the bonus challenge is to do a reorder method. So private static void reorder, and we're going to pass in the parameter, which is actually 2 parameters. So let's just say params. Even though it's singular before and this time it's plural, that's because we can't use params. We have to use parameters because params is a keyword. So parameters, even though it's singular up above, that's just because we don't know what that param is. We don't know anything about it. Now in reorder, we know that's actually a set of parameters. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to split that, that value. So string array, and this is going to be let's call it param set equals parameters dot split on space. And I'm doing split here because I want to have 2 different values, because in theory what it's going to give me is I'm going to say reorder number 1 should be number 0. And it's going to move number 1 up in order. Or we could say number 5 should be number 7. And it's going to move those around. So let's split. This is the value of parameters. We're going to split it based off space. And in theory, we have 2 values in param set. So the first thing we need to check is if param set dot length does not equal 2, keep doing the 1, does not equal 2, then console write line, you need to pass in the correct number of parameters. And we need to have a exit here. Oh, sorry, turn. There we go. One other thing to note that I didn't do that I need to do. I never put help for the clear and now reorder. So let's do that. Let's put it right here. Actually, after done, I'll put a reorder. Changes the order of a to-do. And then I'll put my clear. Okay. Just remember I missed that. So I'm going to get that done now. So with reorder, now I'm going to split based upon the space. Now I have these 2 values in theory in 2 different string array values. So I'm going to have position 0 and position 1. I know I'll have that because I'm checking to make sure that it has 2 values or 2 items in the array. Now I can move forward with the knowledge that yes, there are 2 values in the array, because if it was any more or less, then it would have exited out of this method. Now I need 2 integer values. I'm going to say int from equals 0, whoops, and int 2 equals 0 as well. And now I'm going to do if int.try parse, our string is param set at position 0, and out from equals false. So you need to pass a valid from number and then return. And then I'm going to do the same with the other one. So this is 2, and this is position 1 and 2. Now I didn't do the inline declaration because I didn't want to just use them in this if statement. I want to avail from now on, and so now I can do is down below. I can use these, and it'll be just more clear. So let's first make sure that these numbers are in a valid range. So if from is less than 0 or from is greater than, and this is the to-dos dot count minus 1. So if this position's outside of a valid range for our to-do list, that's a problem. So we should say from is not in a valid range. And again, return. And we'll do the exact same thing for 2. And it's the same range because we're going to move things around. We're not actually going to add or remove from our list. Therefore, even though we'll remove one from the list and add it to the other list or add it back in somewhere else, that just means that the placement should be identical. The only thing we'll need to check is to make sure that we can add something to the end of a list. So let's say I have 3 items, position 0, 1, and 2. If I take something from position 0, can I say go to position 2? Because that's actually one past the end of the list when we remove it from position 0. So I'll have to check to make sure that's going to work. If it doesn't work, we can just say add, and then we'll add to the end. But for right now, we'll assume it works. And now what we can do is we have all the information we need. So we can say to do equals to-dos dot, actually to-dos at position from. Now we have a copy of that string, and now we can remove that string from our to-do. To-dos dot remove at, and here's the index from. Now I can say to-dos dot add. All right, actually that camera glitched there for a minute. Sorry about that. So I was going to add this, but not, instead of add, we want insert, and the position is going to be the to position, and the item is going to be the to-do that we saved before we removed it. So those are the 3 steps we have to do. Save the to-do, remove it, and then insert it at the new position. Let's verify this in fact does work. So let's do a couple adds. Whoops. That's interesting. So now if we have print, we have position 0 of nothing. So remove, let's say done, sorry. Done with 0. And then print gives us nothing. Clear. Okay. So add hello world, add goodbye, add take out trash, and add wash dishes. So now we can do a print all, which prints out all 4 of them. And now we can say, you know what? I think that take out trash is the most important. So reorder 2 to be position 0 instead. Now if we print all, we get take out trash is the most important, followed by hello world, goodbye, and wash dishes. And then we can come along and say, you know what? Actually, no, I think take out trash is the least important. It should be after wash dishes. So reorder from position 0 to position 3. Now this is going to test to make sure that we can add to the end of it. Always test these edge cases. In this case, a literal edge. And it seems to have worked. So clear, print all, and there's take out trash at the end. So our application is a success. We can clear a screen, exit out, and we're done. So we have just created a console application that's pretty robust. We've got a lot of different actions we can do here, from adding items, printing or printing all of them. We can even capture a number after print and print just that many. That'd be an option too. It wouldn't be much of a change. We could do, we can complete a to-do, we can reorder our to-dos, we can exit the application, get help, or clear the screen. So a lot of stuff we can do here in just a short amount of time. And while maybe creating a console application isn't something you find valuable because it seems like it's more of a visual thing, we've done a lot of different tasks that a normal console application probably has to do, with capturing information, parsing parameters, converting values into their correct type. All those types of things are pretty common to do in a console application. So even though we're doing a to-do list, maybe it's not something you'll keep on your computer to keep running. It does demonstrate a lot of these other pieces that you should know about console applications. So hopefully it stretched you in some area. Hopefully it tweaked your thought process and maybe made you think about things a little bit differently. Hopefully you learned something from it. And either way, thank you for doing it. Thank you for being a part of the weekly challenge series. Thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.